Momo, Ayase, and Okarun are total opposites when it comes to beliefs. Momo's all in on the paranormal, while Okarun's more like, show me some proof. Their constant battle to shut each other down leads to awkward crushes and wild paranormal fights that make them question everything. They're in deep, and it's gonna get messy. If you're loving the story, hit that like button, share it, and spread the madness. Momo Ayase, a high school girl with a family full of spirit mediums, finds herself crossing paths with Okarun, a guy who's completely obsessed with all things occult. Their unlikely connection kicks off when they argue over what's real, aliens or ghosts. Determined to settle it, Momo takes on the challenge of exploring an abandoned hospital famous for UFO sightings, while Okarun heads for a haunted tunnel buzzing with ghost stories. Momo's day takes a nosedive when her boyfriend hits her up for cash for their date and then casually suggests a hotel hangout. That's the last straw. She kicks him to the curb, literally, and storms off. Post-breakup, she vents to her friends, who can't help but roast her for even dating the guy. Momo admits she only gave him a shot because he looked like her celeb crush, Ken Takakura, a reason her friends can't stop rolling their eyes over. Still stewing, Momo notices a boy getting picked on in class. She pulls a power move, taking his desk and glaring the bullies into retreat. The boy, impressed by her boldness, starts rambling about aliens and UFOs. Momo's patience snaps, but she apologizes right after, explaining her ghost-believing roots thanks to her grandma, the spirit medium. The boy, now forever branded Occult-kun, laughs off ghosts as make-believe. Sparks fly as they challenge each other to prove what's real, UFOs or ghosts. That night, they split up to prove who's right. Momo heads to Nagi Hospital, while Occult-kun dives into the haunted tunnel. As they talk over the phone, Momo spills about how she once hated her grandma. The old lady had her do a public ritual that got her laughed at by boys, even her crush. It stung bad, but Momo eventually let it go, realizing it wasn't the ritual she hated, it was the teasing. Now, she owns her family's spirit medium gig like a pro. Occult-kun, on the other hand, runs into the stuff of nightmares. Turbo Granny shows up, looking freaky as hell and offering him things no sane person would want. He nopes out of there fast, but she's faster. She catches him, slaps a curse on him for losing a race, and leaves him rattled to his bones. Hearing his screams, Momo charges in, ready to help, but she stops dead in her tracks. Three shadowy figures appear in the hospital hallway and snatch her up before she can do a thing. Momo wakes up tied to a chair, down to her underwear, with the creepiest aliens she's ever seen staring her down. They call themselves Serpos and start rambling about needing human reproductive powers. One of them has some weird gadget strapped on and says they're about to borrow her organs. Momo's struggling hard, but the Serpos mess with her head using psychokinesis, leaving her powerless. Tied up by aliens? Really?
Guess this isn't an average night for Momo?
Just as things hit peak horror, her phone rings, snapping the tension. The Serpos turn toward the noise, but before they can move, Turbo Granny storms in, chomps off the gadget, and wrecks the scene. That's when Momo realizes Turbo Granny isn't just a ghost. It's Occult-kun, who is now fully possessed. The Serpos try to stop the possessed boy, but Turbo Granny swiftly attacks them, destroying their devices with brutal precision. Just as Turbo Granny seems unstoppable, the aliens pin her down with psychokinesis. Occult-kun, still under the ghost's control, pleads for Momo's safety, even offering himself to fulfill the Serpo's desires. The aliens dismiss him and intensify their efforts to manipulate Momo. At her breaking point, Momo remembers her grandmother's teachings about unlocking her key through a ritual. She performs it successfully, awakening psychic powers that allow her to break free from the restraints. Now empowered, Momo channels her strength and lands a devastating kick on the lead Serpo, damaging their UFO. She then confronts Turbo Granny, suppressing her possession of Occult-kun. Before vanishing, Turbo Granny warns Momo that she has stolen Occult-kun's genitalia, and that the curse can only be lifted if they confront her at the tunnel. As the UFO crashes, both Momo and Occult-kun come to terms with the reality of aliens and ghosts. Occult-kun, determined to fix the curse, prepares to face Turbo Granny alone, hoping to avoid further trouble for Momo. However, Momo insists on helping, touched by his vulnerability. He apologizes, admitting he's socially awkward, and Momo is struck by his sincere tone, eerily similar to her favorite actor, Ken Takakura. When she finally asks for his name, Momo is stunned as he responds, Ken Takakura. Speechless, Momo stares at him, wondering if fate is playing some kind of cosmic joke. Momo can't believe the dude standing in front of her has the same name as her favorite idol, Ken Takakura. She tells him he can't just go around using that name and decides to call him Okarun instead. He's not into it, but he agrees. Since it's morning, when spirits usually chill, Momo invites Okarun to crash at her place until nighttime, when they'll face off with Turbo Granny. The second they try to walk through her gate, Okarun suddenly bursts into flames. Panicked, Momo uses her psychic powers to toss him into a nearby river. She realizes the talisman on the gate, meant to keep bad spirits out, was the problem, so she takes it down to let Okarun through safely. When he gets out of the river, Momo can't help but crack up at his hair, which now looks like a weird perm after getting singed. Once they're inside and changed, Okarun's not happy to find that his junk is missing. Momo tells him that it's his own fault for trying to make moves at school. Okarun admits he just wanted to make a friend and worries Momo won't want to hang with him now. Momo tells him the real issue is how he pushes people away, but she's down to talk ghosts and aliens with him. Okarun's super touched and almost tears up, but then he snaps at her, which just gets on Momo's nerves. Then the doorbell rings. Momo doesn't recognize the sound and freaks out, thinking it's an evil spirit. She has 2 doorbell chimes, one for humans, one for ghosts. Realizing it's probably because she took down the talisman, Momo and Okarun sneak out back to put it back. But when they get to the gate, things are way different. A giant wall is in the way. They can't put the talisman back, and worse, blood starts dripping from their noses because of some sort of creepy black mist surrounding them. Then, a huge figure appears and starts accusing them of breaking some promise, threatening to take their banana organs. And now we're dealing with walls and ghost drama. The story is getting dark.
And they're coming for our organs? This is turning into a horror flick now.
Momo and Okarun haul ass, dodging shockwaves from the giant stomps. Okarun recognizes it as the Flatwoods monster, based on how it looks, while Momo guesses it's probably connected to the Serpos, given the whole attack vibe. Momo quickly realizes she can't fight the monster and keep Okarun's curse in check at the same time, but Okarun thinks he can take on the alien if she can stop Turbo Granny's curse from messing with him so he can get his body back. Another shockwave from the Flatwoods monster comes barreling toward them, and Momo jumps into action, following Okarun's plan. It works. Okarun gets control and uses Turbo Granny's insane speed to zip them both out of danger. They manage to fight back by biting off the monster's huge fingers, but then Okarun starts coughing up blood. His body can't handle the speed, and Momo has to drag him out of the way before he gets squashed. They both struggle to come up with a plan in to beat the Flatwoods monster. Momo spots how it fights like a sumo wrestler and thinks they could win if they force it to touch the ground, something that's illegal in sumo. Momo uses her psychic powers to keep Okarun's curse in check with one hand, while he uses the other to smash the monster's leg. Then, she pulls the monster's body down, making its hand disintegrate. Even though they hurt it, the monster grows a second set of legs to keep standing, and slams Momo into the wall by the Torii gate. Momo's trying to keep the curse under control, but she's getting wrecked, slammed into the wall again and again. Okarun pleads for her to focus on saving herself, but Momo won't back down. She tells him her plan was for the monster to beat her up enough to make a gap in the wall so she could put the talisman back in place. Once it's up, the Flatwoods monster goes up in flames, and they're back in the real world. Exhausted and relieved, Momo notices Okarun's hair is a mess again, and she actually thinks it's cute. She collapses from the fight, but without the curse being suppressed anymore, Okarun falls under her Turbo Granny's control once again. On a live broadcast, a psychic called Santa Dodoria tries to give a reading for a celebrity, but the guy keeps interrupting her, correcting everything she says. After the awkward session, the psychic hops into a taxi but suddenly gets out, deciding to walk home instead. She feels like the driver could be in danger if they keep driving together. Just when Turbo Granny is about to mess up Momo, her grandmother shows up out of nowhere to stop her. She hurls a brick with a nail and a circle on it, and the next moment, Turbo Granny catches fire. Every time the evil spirit tries to get close, she bursts into flames again. Momo's grandmother explains she set up a barrier to trap Turbo Granny and is hitting her with a bat every time she tries to cross it. Turbo Granny threatens that if her grandmother kills her, Okarun's life will be over too. But Momo's grandmother doesn't care. She's determined to stop Turbo Granny for hurting Momo. Seeing a second barrier, she places a nail in the circle, bids Turbo Granny goodbye, and erases the first circle with her foot. Turbo Granny bursts into flames once again. Later, Momo wakes up in her bed, finding her grandmother chilling in front of the TV. She asks if she's seen Okarun, worried his curse might cause more trouble. Her grandmother casually reveals that she already took care of the evil spirit. Momo is surprised and wants to know more, but her grandmother brings up that time Momo called her a fake spirit medium. Momo apologizes, and her grandmother tells her to check the shrine outside. When Momo does, she finds Okarun safe and sound, looking happy, but she ends up slamming the door on him, leaving him totally confused. Her grandmother explains that Okarun's curse is now dormant in the shrine and admits she lied about Okarun dying just to get Momo to worry. Then she asks if Momo has feelings for him, but Momo quickly denies it. So Okarun's fine, and I freaked out for nothing?
Did you see his face when you slammed the door? He looked like a lost puppy.
Momo tells her grandma about her new psychic powers and Okarun's curse. Her grandma warns her not to mess with Turbo Granny, who's gotten even stronger after merging with another spirit. She says no one can beat her, but Momo, not backing down, thinks helping Okarun is what Ken Takakura would do. Her grandma teases her about liking Okarun, but she agrees to let Momo face Turbo Granny and suggests they train for a game of tag to weaken her. Later, Okarun swears he's gonna get stronger after feeling weak against the Flatwoods monster. Momo reassures him and sets up a futon with some barley tea for him. Meanwhile, her grandma watches a news report showing that her psychic reading was spot on. Momo doesn't really care about it though. During training, Momo notices Okarun needs to use the bathroom but doesn't want to leave. She stays with him to keep suppressing the curse. She tries using her powers to connect to his aura and control the curse, but it gets harder when Turbo Granny's influence starts to take over. Okarun rushes to the bathroom and Momo and her grandma follow him. As Momo tries to control the curse, her grandma reveals that Momo's powers have even more potential she hasn't unlocked yet. Suddenly, Momo sees her grandma's nose bleeding. They find Turbo Granny in the bathroom talking through Okarun. The ghost warns Momo that her curse can kill anyone. Okarun's looked at and challenges her to meet in the tunnel later. After Turbo Granny leaves, Momo sees her grandma's nose and ears bleeding and the burnt talisman on the floor. Her grandma asks what happened, but Momo's too busy to explain. Before they head to the tunnel, Momo's grandma gives them both special clothes to protect them from evil spirits. She hugs Momo, praying for her safety. On the train to the tunnel, Momo is filled with anger toward Turbo Granny. She's determined to get revenge for what Turbo Granny did to her grandma. Meanwhile, Okarun hides his face in embarrassment, feeling weird about their outfits, especially since they're in public. Momo and Okarun head into the tunnel to deal with Turbo Granny, but they're in for it big time. This old hag blocks both ends with her huge head. Momo tries to flex with her bat powers, but no dice. Those freaky eyes in Granny's mouth shut that down real quick. She tells Okarun to tap into Granny's juice, but the old lady just tosses back his goods and leaves him hanging. Momo gets smart and calls for a game of tag, but Turbo Granny pulls a fast one. She counts all weird and nabs Momo before they can bounce. Okarun gets salty about the bogus counting, but Granny just brushes it off. No one dropped any rules about counting straight. Okarun goes wild and sinks his teeth into Granny's chest. No letting up. She takes over his body and comes at Momo, but Momo keeps it cool, using her grandma's tips to box up Granny's power inside Okarun till she busts out. Just when they think they're good, some earth spirit rolls up to back Granny, and they got a dip. Okarun books it through town with Momo on his back, running like the wind thanks to Granny's leftover power. This massive spirit crab is on their tail, but regular folks can't peep it. When Okarun starts running on empty, Momo cooks up a plan to lead the crab to some hot water. She dumps the hot stuff on it to slow it down, but they hit a wall. There was a fair idea. The whole town is out there, acting sketchy, all possessed and stuff. Granny and the crab pulled some strings with the cemetery spirits, and now they're stuck in Shono City, for real. With all these zombie-like people around them, Okarun goes full speed with Granny's power, scooping up Momo to bust through the crowd. They're going so fast it hurts them both, and Momo loses her grip on keeping Granny locked up inside Okarun. Granny boots them hard. Okarun straight up passes out in the cold. Turbo Granny teams up with the spirit crab to play a little chase game with Momo. Granny tries to flex by offering Momo some head start time, but Momo ain't having it. She only needs a hot second. Boom! She uses her mind powers to grab onto a train zooming by. Granny thinks she's slick catching up when the train slows down for a turn, but Momo played her like a fiddle. Turns out Momo's grandma set up a spirit trap right on those train tracks, heading to Kamakoshi City. Momo keeps Granny stuck there with her powers until the trap does its thing, taking out both Granny and the crab spirit at once. During the exorcism, Momo sees schoolgirls emerging from the earthbound spirit crab. After defeating Turbo Granny, they return to the tunnel to pay respects. Momo's grandmother reveals the tunnel was where young girls were murdered, and Turbo Granny had been comforting their lingering spirits. She teaches Momo about living-dead coexistence, expressing relief at her safety. Later at dinner, Okarun watches Momo and her grandmother squabble over Crab, then keeps his distance when she insists on checking if his genitals returned. As Okarun leaves by bike, Momo reconsiders her goodbye, instead promising to meet tomorrow, bringing him comfort at the Torii Gate. Next day at school, Okarun's stressing about how to say hi to Momo, but she's posted up at the entrance waiting for him. He thinks she's there for someone else, but nah, she walks right up asking why he took forever. They chat about aliens before heading to class. Okarun's so stoked about having a friend he doesn't even sweat the haters in class. Meanwhile, Momo's spaced out thinking, blanking on her friends trying to get her attention. They figure she's back with her ex. Both Momo and Okarun are itching to hang during lunch, but keep missing each other like ships in the night. They end up chilling on different benches, both thinking the other is dodging them. When they finally bump into each other, for real, teeth and all, they're hyped to learn they were both looking for each other. But Momo's friends spot them, and drama pops off when they deny being an item, killing the vibe. Okarun bounces to the bathroom thinking about saying sorry, then realizes something wild. His junk's back, but his boys are MIA. In class, everyone's giving Momo heat about her run-in with Okarun. Things get weird when he shows up making gestures below the belt. Momo tells him to step, and he thinks she's embarrassed to be seen with him. One of her friends calls her out for being cold if he's really her boy. End of the day, this girl Aira starts playing nice with Okarun. Momo, already feeling bad about earlier, catches Aira bragging about playing him. She gets petty and uses her powers to drop a bucket on Aira's head. Then Momo rolls up to Okarun, all sweet about walking home together, throwing shade at Aira. On the way, she says sorry for being mean earlier. He's cool about it, but changes the subject real quick to his missing nuts.
She had it coming. Anyway, Aira's not even worth the drama.
Can someone please find his ball already? Momo's cracking up at Okarun's mess, while Seiko's chewing him out for not letting her check him out yesterday. Seiko does a quick soul scan and tells Momo to grab a doll and a bowl of water, cause there's something weird inside Okarun. Momo grabs the bowl and a lucky cat thing. Seiko whacks Okarun on the head with a paper fan, makes a joke about some TV show, and asks Momo if she sees anything. Momo says Okarun's aura changed color. Seiko tells her to yank it out when it changes again. When Momo does, the lucky cat thing suddenly comes to life and bolts. Momo uses her powers to grab it, and the thing's pissed and wants to be let go. Seiko tells Momo and Okarun that the thing is actually Turbo Granny. Turbo Granny says she dodged getting exorcised by hiding inside Okarun at the last second. She says she'll get even when she's back to full power. Momo tells her off for not realizing she's totally powerless right now. Okarun then goes after Turbo Granny, demanding his stuff back and waving a magic charm at her. Turbo Granny tells him not to mess with her, or he'll never get his balls back. Okarun and Momo suddenly get it. Turbo Granny then tells Okarun to off Momo and Seiko if he wants his balls back. This makes Okarun so mad he turns into like his Turbo Granny form. Seiko explains that even though Turbo Granny's mind bailed from Okarun, her power is still stuck in him because she didn't want to leave. Turbo Granny's like, whoa. Seiko starts hitting Turbo Granny with her fan. Even though they're enemies, Momo tells Turbo Granny she can't hate her after finding out she used to help the girls who died in the tunnels. Momo makes a deal. She'll juice up Turbo Granny if she helps them find Okarun's balls. Turbo Granny agrees, but sadly says she's lost them. Momo and Okarun are hunting for his missing balls, which Turbo Granny says are covered in her golden spiritual energy. They can't find them, so Turbo Granny figures some spirit or monster snatched them because of their strong life force. She doesn't really care where they are, which makes Momo and Okarun super mad, so they stomp on her in frustration. They tell Seiko what happened, and she offers to help by getting info. She also tells Okarun to keep Turbo Granny's power inside him under control. The next day at school, some guy asks Okarun to introduce him to Momo because they're friends. The guy says Momo's cute, and Okarun suddenly notices it too, but he tries to brush it off, thinking of her as just a friend. Then he hears the guy mention a nasty rumor going around about Momo. Okarun grabs the guy's shirt, demanding to know who started it. Getting angry makes him accidentally use Turbo Granny's power, which scares the guy. Okarun realizes what he did, calms down, apologizes, and goes to his seat. Turbo Granny pops out, saying she was hiding in his bag the whole time, and she's stoked he used her power in public. Okarun doesn't want anyone to see her, so he runs out to the hallway to talk to her alone. She tries to get him to give her back her full power, but he refuses. What's with Okarun? He's acting all sketchy, like he's hiding something.
Maybe he's just too distracted by your cuteness.
Turbo Granny hides back in his bag when Momo shows up. Okarun's about to tell Momo about Turbo Granny, but he can't even look her in the eye because he's now thinking about how cute she is. Momo gets annoyed and confused when he starts avoiding her, and she chases after him. This gives Turbo Granny a chance to wander around the school. Later, Momo's back in class, wondering why Okarun's avoiding her. Her friend tells her Okarun stood up for her when someone brought up the rumor. Even though she knows this, she still doesn't get why he's acting weird. Meanwhile, Aira's strutting around the hallways, loving all the attention. She's thinking about how she sees Momo as a demon ever since Momo accidentally dropped a washtub on her head using her powers. She's a little bummed that the mean rumors she spread about Momo didn't seem to work. She's clutching one of Okarun's testicles, which she found the day before, and thinks it's a sign that she's destined to save the world. Last night, Aira found one of Okarun's testicles after it fell on her head. She saw a light by the train tracks, took the golden ball, and decided she was a savior. Now, her friends bring her the stuff she asked for her mission, a Bible and a cross. One of her friends says Aira's been acting strange. Aira then tells them about a mysterious woman in red outside the school. Her friends don't see anything, so Aira figures it's Momo's familiar, spying on them. Aira tries to hide, but two guys think she's acting suspicious. She puts on her fake nice girl act to cover it up and tells her friends to meet her after school. On the school roof, Momo gets Okarun's attention. He's watching Turbo Granny search for his missing bits, believing a human has them, attracting creepy stuff. She also mentions some weird lady, promising to explain later. Aira spots the red woman and asks Momo for a private chat. Momo agrees, telling Okarun they'll catch up afterward. Turbo Granny warns Okarun about the woman. Definitely bad news. They trail Aira to an empty building and find her tied up by her own friends, trying to exorcise something. Momo uses her powers to defend herself. Aira, in a panic, grabs the thing and suddenly sees Momo's demon wings. Momo spots Okarun and tells him Aira has his thing and is the mystery lady. Okarun corrects her. She's the one being targeted. Just then, the real red lady shows up and snatches Aira. Turns out, the lady's Aira's mom. Okarun tries to jump in and save Aira using Turbo Granny's power, but the mom's too quick and devours Okarun. She tells Aira she's waited over 10 years for this reunion. Momo's furious, demanding him back, reminding the mom about the monster human rulebook. Momo gets the lowdown from Turbo Granny using Muko's pilfered phone. Their enemy is Acrobatic Silky, a seriously fast red monster. Acrobatic Silky goes ballistic when Aira calls her a monster and gobbles her down too, pinning the blame on Momo. Momo begs Turbo Granny for backup, but the doll's all out of juice. Acrobatic Silky grabs Momo by the neck with her freaky hair, swinging her around like a rag doll. Momo refuses to apologize and gets swallowed whole too. Then Acrobatic Silky starts wailing, asking where her baby is. Turbo Granny steps up to Acrobatic Silky, telling her to cough up the kids or face the music. She reminds her that being a lucky cat means she can dish out some serious good fortune. Momo uses Aira's lighter, which doubles as a rosary, to set Acrobatic Silky's hair ablaze from inside her stomach. The monster can't handle it and spits them out. Momo and Okarun are back in action and ready for a rematch.
Okay, Ken, let me take over now. Acrobatic Silky is hot on Momo and Okarun's tail, trying to get her hands on the unconscious Aira. The building's packed, but Okarun, now in Turbo Granny form, keeps pushing forward, carrying Aira like a human shield, while Momo leads the way, luring Silky into their trap. Silky catches up quick and overpowers Momo, then goes for Okarun, almost separating him from Aira. But Momo's plan works when Silky's hair, all messed up from the chase, gets stuck in the beams above. As Silky struggles to break free, Momo grabs her legs with her psychic powers and tells Okarun to go for it, Turbo Granny style. Totally caught off guard, Okarun uses his speed to slam into Silky, knocking her back and taking her down.
Guess who's getting tangled up in their own hair now?
Silky's about to have a bad hair day. She's not gonna know what hit her. With Silky out of the picture, Momo and Okarun think they've won, but then Turbo Granny drops the bomb and Aira's dead. Okarun checks her pulse, and sure enough, Turbo Granny was right. Aira's gone, taken by a yokai. Even though Turbo Granny says it's too late, Momo and Okarun don't give up. They try everything: CPR, heart massages, and even have Turbo Granny call an ambulance. But when Acrobatic Silky rises from the floor, things take a weird turn. She offers to help save Aira by transferring her own aura into her. Momo's skeptical, but Silky rips out her own mouth to show she means no harm. Still on edge, Momo agrees to let Silky try, telling Okarun to stay alert while she uses her psychic powers to transfer the aura. As she focuses, Momo gets a glimpse into Silky's heartbreaking past. She was once a mother who decided to give up on her life after being torn away from her child. In a busy crowd, Acrobatic Silky is struggling with lost memories when she meets a young girl, Aira, who mistakes her for her mom. After Aira goes back to her dad, he gently reminds her that her mom isn't around anymore and that she needs to stay strong. This really hits Silky hard, and she starts to believe that maybe she was Aira's mom in a past life. That belief makes her feel like she has to protect Aira, which turns her into a yokai. Momo watches everything unfold and gets super emotional, leading her to cry. Okarun gets suspicious and is about to step in, but Momo tells him to hold off. She reveals that somehow Aira is alive again. As Aira comes back to life, Acrobatic Silky, full of regret, apologizes to her, but as she does, she begins to disintegrate. Turbo Granny explains to Momo that Acrobatic Silky, weighed down by regret and lacking her aura, is fading away, doomed to be forgotten instead of peacefully passing on. In her final moments, Acrobatic Silky remembers her own child and regrets not being a better mom. Aira, feeling the loss, steps forward, hugs Silky, and calls her Mom. She tells her she loves her, and that moment lets Silky pass on peacefully to Nirvana. Aira then wishes that both Silky and her child find a better place in the afterlife.
Hey guys, I know I'm interrupting the video, but I'm just here to remind you that most of you guys watching this video are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you click that subscribe button and hit the notification bell for more updates in the future. Now let's get straight back into the video.
After the whole mess with Acrobatic Silky wraps up, Aira, Momo, Okarun, Seiko, and Turbo Granny sit down to eat together at the Ayase house. Momo realizes Aira's still holding a grudge against her for dropping that basin on her when they first met. She admits she went too far and apologizes, but then she insists that Aira owes Okarun an apology for making fun of him back then. Aira, however, brushes it off and says she doesn't have any hard feelings about Momo, but she sees Momo as a demon and an enemy she has to defeat. The tension ramps up and Momo gets defensive, saying she's not a demon. Aira then turns her attention to Okarun and Seiko, pointing out that Okarun's transformation into Turbo Granny and Seiko's youthful appearance are enough proof in her mind that they're all demons.
I think Aira is only stretching about tracing demons in them. It's hard for her to figure out anything.
Yeah, because Turbo Grandmas and babyface Seiko are hard to catch. The argument heats up, with Aira vowing to face off with Momo again someday. Momo accepts the challenge, no hesitation. Before leaving, Aira asks Okarun why he chose to save her if he's a demon, and he answers simply, saying it's just natural to help people. This catches Aira off guard and she starts to soften, thinking he still has some humanity left. She blushes, telling him she'll come to free him from Momo's influence, which totally stuns Momo. Later, Okarun happily gets his ball back during a fun game of baseball with Turbo Granny and Seiko. The next day at school, Momo suggests to Okarun that they meet on the rooftop to talk about his other ball. Okarun, though, says he'd rather use the time to finish a report. Momo reluctantly agrees and lets him have his space. She spends lunch with Miko and Muko, but she starts feeling like Okarun's hiding something. Miko jokingly wonders if it's about a girl, which Momo denies, but her mind drifts back to Aira and their weird encounter yesterday. Later, when Momo heads out to grab drinks for herself and Miko, she can't shake the feeling that something's off. She wonders if she should check on Okarun, but when she steps into the courtyard, she's totally caught off guard seeing Okarun on top of Aira. Okarun is outside the school, training alone like Seiko told him, getting ready for the next big paranormal showdown. Out of nowhere, Aira shows up and tries to confess her feelings by kissing him. Totally shocked, Okarun pulls back and asks her what made her think that was a good idea. Aira says she's just doing what her dad's books told her. As she tries again, Okarun blocks her but somehow ends up falling right on top of her. And guess who's watching? Momo. She storms off, clearly upset. Okarun runs after her to explain, but Momo's not having any of it and brushes him off, even though he tries to cover up with some excuse about finishing a report. In class later, Momo's clearly struggling with what just happened, and Miko and Muko jokingly mistakenly say she's probably possessed by the mantis shrimp spirit. They're learning about it in class. Okarun, on the other hand, is hoping to make things right with Momo, but it's not looking good. Then things get weird. The classroom floor floods, and the room's empty. Okarun leaves and bumps into Aira, who thinks Momo is behind all of it. Okarun, feeling like this is deja vu, tells her he's been in this kind of mess before. Meanwhile, Momo's stuck in the classroom, frustrated that she can't open the windows. She starts wondering if Okarun's in the same jam. Then, she hears something and sees a snake-like creature slithering toward her. Momo hides, but accidentally makes a ripple in the water, which triggers the creature to unleash a crazy attack that wrecks the classroom. She barely dodges it and starts wondering where Okarun is. Back outside, Okarun and Aira hear the noise, and Okarun remembers a similar situation with the Flatwoods monster. He tells Aira they have to defeat whatever's coming if they want to escape. Suddenly, a crab-headed alien attacks them, and Okarun shifts into his turbo granny form. He pulls Aira out of the way and tells her to run, but he's quickly overpowered by some psychokinesis and reverts back to his normal self. The Serpos, those aliens, approach him and start talking about his weird supernatural powers, saying they need his reproductive organs to take his powers. Okarun tries to explain it was just a curse, but he's too weak to transform again. Just when the Serpos pull out giant scissors, Aira turns into Acrobatic Silky, using her hair like a weapon to fight back. She tells the Serpos she's the chosen one and demands they release Okarun. After the Serpos attack, Aira checks on Okarun, but becomes flustered seeing him nude, misinterpreting it as a sign he wants to deepen their relationship. A Serpo realizes Aira has superhuman abilities similar to Okarun, allowing her to enter dimensional space. He orders the crab-headed alien to engage her in close combat while he attacks from afar with psychic powers. Aira dodges the alien's punches, kicks him into the ceiling, and turns to face the Serpo. Using psychokinesis, the Serpo pins Aira against a wall, thrilled at finding multiple superhuman humans. Freed, the crab alien punches Aira, sending her through a classroom. Okarun intervenes, but is subdued by the Awesome Zone, which negates yokai powers. The crab alien attacks Okarun until Momo arrives, countering the Serpo's psychokinesis. Shocked at her reappearance, the Serpo laments his subordinate's failure to eliminate her. While Okarun is glad to see Momo, she scolds him for his state and involvement with Aira. Though annoyed, Aira asks Momo to team up, asserting she won't give up Kene, Okarun. Hearing his real name, Momo blushes and loses focus, allowing the Serpos to trap them again. The Serpo injects the crab alien with a serum, enhancing him into a mantis shrimp-like form. He bombards Aira and Okarun with shockwave punches, but Momo recovers and frees them. Transformed, Okarun and Aira overpower the crab alien, though Momo warns them against fighting too closely. Their battle halts as water floods the void. Surfacing, Momo looks up in dismay at the massive creature swimming above them. Upon recognizing the creature above as Nessie, Momo and Okarun swim away as it attacks a Serpo. Beneath them, the enhanced crab alien launches an underwater shockwave punch, propelling Aira into the watery ceiling, nearly drowning her. Despite boasting that his punches are stronger underwater, the crab alien reveals he lacks gills and begins to drown. Okarun transforms into Turbo Granny to counterattack, but quickly realizes her powers don't work for swimming and reverts to his original form. While evading attacks, Okarun suggests distracting the alien so Momo can assist Aira. This leads to an argument about Okarun's earlier incident with Aira, which Momo tries to dismiss, though her distress is evident. Okarun urges her to be honest and promises to clarify later, confessing she's the one person he doesn't want to misunderstand. He then shields her from an underwater punch. Momo devises a plan to use her powers to transform Okarun into a speedboat-like form for faster underwater movement. Riding him, she propels Okarun to Aira, clearing water from her lungs to revive her. Finding their clothes impede movement, Momo strips to her underwear and persuades a reluctant Aira to do the same. Below, the crab alien discovers a Serpo's severed head, realizing it was killed by Nessie. Another Serpo approaches, using body cables to fuse with both the alien and Nessie. As the trio prepares to confront their enemies, the newly fused Serpo Dover demon Nessie unleashes water blasts. Once it pauses to recharge, Aira attempts a flying kick using her acrobatic silky hair, but is blocked and countered by shockwave punches. The creature boasts superior close combat skills due to its crab arms. After regrouping, Momo formulates a plan based on Okarun's observation about its mantis shrimp arms, but they are scattered by another punch before executing it. Serpo Dover, Demon Nessie thought he was hot shit, lining up his last big move like some oversized sushi roll of destruction. But Momo wasn't here to play patty cake. She yanked that water so damn hard, his mantis shrimp arms went snap, crackle, pop, like a soggy bag of chips left out in the rain. She hit him with the cold, hard truth. His aquatic ass wasn't built for land fights. The dumbass still had the audacity to go full psycho, trying to gnash her up with those busted-ass teeth before diving to spit another death blast. Too bad for him, Aira wasn't about to sit pretty. Her silky-ass hair shot out like a pissed-off boa constrictor, locking him by the throat. Before the seafood special could even gasp, Okarun came flying in like a goddamn rocket on steroids, using her hair like a slingshot from hell. One clean slice, and boom! The creature split apart like a cheap piñata, with Okarun grabbing Momo midair like some action hero in his underpants. The badass moment lasted about 2 seconds before reality slapped them in the face. Back on solid ground, but oh look, they're in the middle of the goddamn school hallway, rocking nothing but their underwear. Panic set in faster than Nessie's limbs gave out. Faces redder than a fire truck, they bolted like maniacs, praying no one had their phones out to immortalize the most humiliating moment of their lives. Momo, Okarun, and Aira are questioned by Queen, who asks if their exposure in underwear was an act of bullying. Before they can respond, a staff member informs the nurse of an incoming call, leaving them alone. Embarrassed over their public humiliation, Momo learns from Aira that she inadvertently activated Acrobatic Silky's powers during the fight, attributing it to her connection with the yokai's aura. Okarun speculates that this link might attract extraterrestrials interested in humans with yokai powers like his and Aira's, possibly tied to technological advancement and his missing Kintama. However, his theory goes over Momo and Aira's heads. Distracted by their humiliation, Momo overhears Aira planning to pin the blame on her. To avoid unnecessary hassle, Momo agrees. Shortly after, Aira leaves with her friends. Alone with Okarun, Momo demands an explanation about his incident with Aira during lunch. Okarun admits he fell on Aira while trying to stop her from kissing him. When Momo questions why they were in a private area, Okarun confesses he was secretly training to appear stronger and more impressive. Amused, Momo teases him about wanting to look cool in front of her. Flustered, Okarun tries to leave, assuring her he won't blame her like Aira did. Just as Momo prepares to respond, her friends Miko and Muko arrive, having heard about the incident. Pressing for details, Miko speculates that Momo and Aira fought over Okarun while in their underwear. Embarrassed, Momo adamantly denies the accusation.
Momo's not having it. She's way too embarrassed for this.
Yeah, I'd be avoiding that rumor too, underwear and all. In Class 2D, Aira plays the role of the victim, basking in her classmates' sympathy. However, her satisfaction fades when she overhears her peers vilifying Momo, accusing her of bullying and labeling her a horrible person. Overwhelmed with guilt, Aira confesses that she fabricated the story about Momo and pleads with her classmates to stop their cruel comments. Shocked by her admission, her peers fall silent as Aira storms out of the room. Outside the school, Aira broods over her confession when Momo approaches her, questioning whether Aira carried out her plan to blame her. Aira admits she tried, but Momo sees through the lie, noting Aira's isolation. Frustrated, Aira doesn't respond, and the tension is cut short when the Dover demon suddenly appears, lamenting his struggles to support his family. Before Momo and Aira can react, the Dover demon collapses, white fluid oozing from his body. The scene shifts to the Ayase household, where the Dover demon awakens to find himself under the watchful eyes of Momo, Okarun, Seiko, and Aira. Momo informs her grandmother that the alien proves extraterrestrial life exists, but Seiko dismisses the claim, mistaking him for a kappa. Aira, wary of his intentions, questions their next move. When the Dover demon stirs from his bed, Momo warns him against any tricks, noting that Seiko is ready to step in. To his surprise, the group presents him with a plate of curry, despite uncertainty about his dietary needs. Moved by their kindness and the care he received, the Dover demon breaks into tears and vows never to harm them again. After dinner, the Dover demon dropped the heavy shit. His kid needed blood transfusions, and he was so broke he had to go full crime mode just to keep the kid alive. Okarun, being the soft-hearted idiot, offered to sell his damn Kintama to help. Momo wasn't having it though. She slapped down the truth, his balls wouldn't fix the never-ending bills. Okarun wasn't about to back down though. Aira jumped in, saying she'd grab the Kintama back after the sale. But Momo wasn't playing along. The Dover demon wasn't about to let them screw themselves over his mess, so he was ready to bail. Then Seiko stepped in like a total badass. She caught the smell of his blood and straight up offered him a cart of milk. Basically blood for his freaky kind. She even suggested grabbing a cow for him from a farmer. Dover demon, probably feeling like he'd fallen into some twisted charity, took the cow and bounced, thanking them like they were saints. Fast forward, Momo, Okarun, and Aira were on their knees, begging Seiko for new uniforms. Seiko, with zero chill, said she'd get uniforms for Okarun and Aira, but only if Momo did a Hiroshi Abe impression. Momo, looking like she wanted to crawl into a hole, agreed. Then Seiko, like the sadist she is, told Momo to answer the door while doing that cringe-ass impression. Momo opened it, and next moment, Gigi, her childhood friend and first crush, was standing there. Momo froze the hell up. Seiko casually dropped the bomb on Okarun, letting him know who Gigi was. Okarun's face went full WTF. Momo was beyond wrecked, just completely torn apart. Momo is stunned upon seeing Gigi again, and Okarun, noting the young man's tough appearance, finds Gigi's sudden surge of energy in response to Momo's expression at the door unamusing. Seiko invites Gigi to make himself comfortable, but Momo is shocked to learn that Gigi will be staying with them. This surprises Okarun as well, while Aira misinterprets Gigi's move-in as a prelude to a major battle and vows to stop Momo, leaving the house in frustration. Momo, dealing with Aira's misunderstanding and Gigi's arrival, is somewhat exasperated. Okarun prepares to leave but stops to tell Momo he'll see her tomorrow, echoing her earlier words, which stirs emotions in both of them. Momo seeks clarity from Seiko about Gigi's stay. Seiko explains that Gigi's parents are hospitalized, and she's happy to have him around after hearing his compliments. While they wash dishes together, Gigi apologizes for teasing Momo as a child and reveals he can now see spirits. Momo, intrigued, asks if he's seen a golden ball, but quickly retracts the question when it confuses him. Gigi shares his experience with an evil spirit haunting his home, causing the exorcists who tried to help after his parents' illness to take their own lives. This led him to seek Seiko's aid, as the exorcists said she was his final hope. Gigi apologizes for involving Momo in his troubles, and she reassures him of her grandmother's ability to handle the situation. However, Seiko reveals that Momo will have to confront the spirit herself, as her powers are only effective in Kamigo City. She suggests Gigi's ability to see spirits may be tied to Okarun's Kintama and promises to buy new uniforms for Momo if she takes on the task. Gigi transfers to Momo's school and quickly flirts with a classmate, then sits next to Momo, who tries to ignore him. He tells her friends that he lives with Momo and exaggerates their relationship, irritating her enough to strangle him. Meanwhile, Okarun worries that Momo might grow closer to Gigi, her first love, and distance herself from him. To distract himself, he secretly trains during lunch. Momo joins him, intending to prevent another incident like with Aira, and offers to feed him. Before he can respond, Gigi interrupts with Momo's favorite yogurt, making her happy. Seeing Momo enjoying herself with Gigi, Okarun decides to distance himself. As Okarun strolls away, an anatomical model comes charging at him like a wild bull. He yells at Momo, who's about to use her powers to stop it, but Gigi pulls her out of the way just in time. The model jumps over them like it's on a mission, and Momo spots something shiny attached to it. For a split second, she freaks out, thinking it's Okarun's Kintama. She tries to grab it, but the thing's going so fast that it yanks her and Gigi along for the ride. That's when Okarun springs into action. Without missing a beat, Okarun transforms into Turbo Granny, his ultimate hero form, and goes full speed to catch up. Momo and Gigi are struggling to stop the model as it bounces all over the rooftops, creating a massive gap between them and it. Momo tries to use her psychic powers to snatch Okarun and the runaway model, but she totally botches it. Instead of stopping the chaos, she accidentally sends herself and Gigi right into the path of an oncoming bus. As they get to safety, Momo quietly tells Gigi that the creature he thought had captured them wasn't a monster. It was actually Okarun in his transformed state. Gigi's jaw drops in surprise. Now, with the model still running loose, Okarun and Gigi team up to help Momo pull it in, but the anatomical model proves tricky, disassembling itself to make a quick escape. The only thing left behind is its heart, and Momo uses it to track the model by following its cries. They end up at a junkyard where Momo reassures the model, telling it they mean no harm and want to check out the mysterious golden sphere attached to it. Out of nowhere, a female voice calls out for the anatomical model named Taro. Taro rushes over to her, a female model named Hana, and declares his love for her despite her desperate attempts to tell him to leave her behind. As Taro's heartfelt declaration unfolds, Okarun, watching the scene, begins to reflect on his own feelings for Momo. He blushes, realizing he might just have stronger feelings for her than he thought. After bringing Hana to the Ayase residence, Okarun, Momo, and Gigi beg Seiko to let her stay. Seiko suggests Hana could stay at Okarun's house, but Okarun insists the Ayase home is the better option. Momo reminds Seiko that they allowed Turbo Granny to stay, which annoys the talking cat, not wanting to be compared to the anatomical model. Momo explains that Taro returned to the science classroom at school, but will only agree to stay if he can see Hana occasionally. She also clarifies that the shiny ball Taro had was just a Christmas ornament, not Okarun's Kintama. After more pleading, Seiko agrees to let Hana stay, as long as her relationship with Taro doesn't cause trouble for the neighbors. Seiko heads to the kitchen to prepare dinner and asks Momo to set the table. While setting the table, Gigi comments on Momo and Okarun's impressive powers. When Gigi playfully teases Momo, making her smile, Okarun reflects on Taro's confession to Hana and feels compelled to intervene. He vaguely tells Momo he's taking a stand, leaving her confused. The situation escalates as Okarun and Gigi begin singing, disrupting Momo. Seiko tells them to stop and orders Momo to pack her things for the weekend at Gigi's house to cleanse the house of the curse, Okarun is surprised, but Momo reassures him, saying she planned to invite him to make him more comfortable. Okarun agrees to complete the task so Gigi can return home. Late that night, Taro sprints out of school to see Hana, but is hit by a truck on his way to the Ayase residence. Meanwhile, Momo waits with Hana, assuring her Taro will arrive soon. By morning, Taro finally arrives, apologizing for the delay and explaining he had to reassemble himself after the accident. Momo, waking up, sees Taro kiss Hana and thanks her for staying with her. She's surprised to learn that Taro plans to see Hana every day. Meanwhile, Gigi lies awake, haunted by the spirit in his house.
So, Taro's sticking around? Guess Hana's got herself a daily visitor.
Gigi's got spirits, Taro's got a new routine, everyone's got something to deal with. On the train ride to Gigi's village, Okarun feels uneasy watching Momo chat happily with Gigi, who has brought her favorite snacks. His jealousy leads him to accidentally shout about his kintama, which Momo finds amusing. Gigi misinterprets it as a dirty joke, but Momo quickly clears it up. Okarun tries to redirect the conversation to the Tsuchinoko, briefly catching Momo's attention, but Gigi steals the spotlight by mentioning a shrine to the creature in his village. Okarun counters with a Kappa shrine, sparking Gigi's interest and a discussion about cryptids, including Nessie. Surprisingly, Okarun enjoys the conversation and feels oddly respected by Gigi, who calls him a friend. This makes Okarun wonder why he finds it hard to dislike Gigi. Arriving at the village, Momo is thrilled to see it's a hot springs district. Gigi explains that the hot springs are tied to his father's work, studying volcanoes. Momo asks if the village volcano might erupt, and Gigi reassures her that it's dormant. After a long walk, they reach the Enjoji house. Momo suggests resting, but Okarun, noticing something strange in the woods, dismisses his unease as Momo insists they head inside. Unknown to them, a group watches from the forest's shadows. After searching the house for any signs of paranormal activity, Momo quickly figures out that the ghost is probably hiding somewhere weak, making it an easy target to eliminate. She decides to take a break in the hot springs and leaves Okarun with Gigi. Gigi, being his usual chill self, invites Okarun to kick around a soccer ball, and while showing him how to properly kick, he casually asks if Okarun has feelings for Momo. Okarun freezes for a second, but admits that he respects her. Gigi, not missing a beat, starts listing off everything he likes about Momo, from her strength to her loyalty, and the two end up arguing about who likes her more. Meanwhile, Momo is soaking in the hot spring, mindlessly wondering if Okarun is getting along with Gigi. Little does she know, a bunch of sketchy dudes are lurking nearby, spying on her like they've got nothing better to do. Back with Okarun and Gigi, their argument over Momo is interrupted when Okarun notices a strange structure connected to the house, looking like some old hidden pathway. Momo starts to feel dizzy in the hot spring and decides it's time to head out, but as she's about to leave, a bunch of men block her path. One of them starts blabbering about gators lurking in the hot springs, and suddenly the group closes in on her. Momo tries to summon her powers to defend herself, but she's too weak and gets grabbed, shoved underwater. Gigi, hearing the ruckus, smashes through a wall with a sledgehammer, only to stumble into a hidden room filled with mysterious talismans. He and Okarun exchange shocked glances, realizing there's way more to this house than they ever thought.
And that was the ending. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you guys in the next one.
See you next time!